Okay, great. Well, Krista, you could share a lot more about the role play than I could. I did it with my students, and I'm going to share the desktop here so that we can take a look. Yeah, my experience did not go well with the role play. I'm going to try this again. I did the role play, I think, too early. So let me get this to work, and we'll explain a little bit about more what the role play is before I go spieling on about my experience with it. Here we go. So the role play is created by David Levine, and it is where the students put themselves in the place of the actors in the grid world. So they have these scripts, and you are a bug, and it tells you that how to construct yourself, what to do when asked certain questions, how to act, and it has all the parts of GridWorld. You have bugs, which bug is the most complex. You have data sheets, which is, keeping track of your personal data. There's flowers. How about I move that? There we go. Rock, of course, is great for someone who doesn't want to do much. Rock data. Here we go. Still scrolling down. We have the actor world. So this is an opportunity to show students how the actor world keeps track of the actors in it. And the difference between the actor world and the grid. So the grid is the physical keeping track of where things are, or locations, not where things are, right? Just the names of occupied locations versus the actor world, which keeps track of the grid and some other things. So it kind of enables to see that distinction. Of course, we have a runner, which gives you a chance to talk about runners. And so the idea is you have students and you assign them to the different roles, and they actually act out this little role play. There's an overview here as well that he talks about. And like I said, I think I did the role play a little too early. I tried to use it as in my introduction. Ooh, that's tough, missing a script. I tried to use it as part of my introduction of inheritance and the larger and GridWorld itself, and I found that the students kind of struggled with it. They didn't really get what was going on, and I think it's good, but I think next time I'm teaching it and doing it, I would probably I did it. Yeah, I did that one as well, Crystal, but I did it before the chapter 2 of the case study. And I think I would probably do the role play after. So on this same day, he has this first day role play, which went well for me, which talks about just objects themselves. And that's a doc, so it's going to be, you are a blackboard, you are from Bamboozler. So I had done that so that they were introduced to that. But like I said, I think the GridWorld role play is complex enough that it helps students to have more than just have looked Hi. Can everyone hear me? All right. Sorry about that. My internet got lost. Let me get in and give myself moderator privileges again. I'm going to pause the recording while I do that. I don't have privileges to pause the recording unless I'm the moderator. I'll be right there. Okay, excellent. I'm really sorry about that. My internet does not normally do that. So I'm on the Georgia Tech internet, so it's kind of surprising when it cuts me off. So I think I was in the middle of talking about the role play and just that may want to wait until they have some more experience. Oh. Okay. Error messages. Lovely. Ah, is there rain going on out there? Oh, great. So really that's kind of what I want to talk about, just making sure that we got our students familiar with GridWorld early on. I really do feel like that's important, that they see it, they understand why it's there, they have a chance to play with it. Oh, I guess one of the other things I didn't talk about, and my tool is broken so I can't point at it, was this first, oh, hey, working again, was the idea of having them modify Bug Runner. This is something they can do very early without having to look at the bug code. It's not something I did, but I read as a suggestion, and I thought it was an interesting one. There we go. Was going into Bug Runner and having them actually edit Bug Runner just to see what happened if they commented out and run it. If we take out our bug, what happens? Well, we can no longer add a bug, right? If we didn't stick it in there. Once again, this is something that is introducing something about GridWorld itself, not necessarily about Java, but an understanding about GridWorld. And we could, right, when we first start this, we can see that here now we can add a bug or a rock. What happens if we put yeah, and it is a good, thank you, Crystal, that is a good example of calling methods, right, add flower. Right, it is about, and now we see that we can't do fine, so it isn't important about import statements. There we go. And also about constructors, because we can talk about how, right, we can see that it's got, we can actually, we have different kinds of constructors, right? So we could actually say, okay, well, how could we call a different constructor in here? So this shows that now we can, in case we didn't see that, where'd it go? Now we can add flowers right off the bat since we put a flower in there. So I thought that was a really interesting, a good idea that I hadn't thought about, and it gets them into the runner, into the code early on to kind of supplement just clicking and playing. So that was really kind of the ideas I had grabbed from various places in that early introduction of GridWorld. Did either of you have any other ideas you've used or have talked about in that early introduction, just getting students into GridWorld and getting them to understand, well, the whole semester is a process of getting them to understand it, but getting them the flavor and helping them dive into the case study. Yeah, there is that trade-off, right? Is that getting into GridWorld early gets them used to GridWorld, gets them into it, gets them using it, but it is easy to get old pretty fast. And I think that's one reason to try to find variety in that. And that's one thing we're going to be trying to talk about as we talk about integrating further beyond this, very basic introduction. Is trying to figure out how can we use it differently, how can we use it so they're still being familiar with the GridWorld and they're still buying into this, that it is a useful piece of code, not just this extra thing that the AP committee has tacked onto it, instead of just always dealing with bugs and always dealing with flowers. It's to get that variety so they don't get bored, but they do learn the code and see the purpose in a larger piece of software. Yeah, I think there's that balance too. I'm not sure. Yeah. And that is something to balance, right? Do you use it as an intro? Do you use it as a reinforcement? When basically introducing GridWorld, I think you have to treat it as GridWorld itself, right? You have to let them click on things and show it. But there are aspects such as function, calling functions, and you can use it a little bit on inheritance, and understanding this idea of what an object is, although obviously that's not the only thing you're going to be using to talk about objects. But the early introduction to GridWorld has to be about GridWorld. But I do think there are times that we can kind of use it, as you said, as a reinforcement early on. I forgot the one other thing that I did do for my students when I did it. I actually did print them, because some of my students are working from home, some didn't, some worked entirely in the lab, but I did actually put these kinds of things with the screenshots, like these kinds of screenshots, in a handout